Staff Sergeant Alan Wright never expected to be the first human to meet aliens. He led a small team in Afghanistan. Their job was to watch enemy movements and report back to base. Things went wrong when their vehicle hit a bomb on the road. Now, Alan and his team were stuck in dangerous territory. Corporal Nancy Ellis and Corporal Peter Davis found an empty mud building. They decided to hide there as night came. They saw strange lights in the sky. At first, they thought these were enemy drones. "Contact 3 o'clock," Nancy said quietly. She pointed her gun at the lights, the beings that came out of the glowing ship were not human. They stood 7 feet tall. Their bodies were covered with shiny scales that changed colors. Each had 4 arms and gill-like slits on their necks. "Hold your fire," Alan ordered. He raised his hand slowly. These aliens, called Zelvorians, were just as surprised to see humans. They had been looking at Earth, which they called a Class 12 death world. Their machines had found human life signs nearby. Commander Kraxtha led the Zelvorian scouts. His mouth parts clicked in what was a friendly greeting for his kind. He carried a small box that changed his complex sounds into rough English. "We come in peace. Our ship detected signs of fighting. Do you need help?" The box translated before Alan could answer. Gunshots rang out across the valley. Enemy fighters had found their hiding spot. "Get down!" Alan shouted. He tackled the nearest alien as bullets flew over their heads. What followed was a wild fight where humans and aliens found themselves working together against a common enemy. The Zelvorians had better technology, but they were not ready for how brutal Earth wars could be. They watched with both horror and amazement as Alan's team moved and shot with great skill that showed years of training. When the shooting stopped, both sides looked at each other with new respect. Alan couldn't read Commander Kraxtha's alien face, but his words showed clear admiration. "Your species fights with remarkable skill for primitives," he said, adjusting his translator. "Perhaps we have rated Earth too low in our rankings." Alan just shrugged. That wasn't fighting. That was just staying alive. The aliens invited Alan's team to their ship. Inside, the humans saw technology beyond their dreams. Lights floated with no visible source. Screens appeared in midair when needed, then vanished. The ship itself seemed alive, with walls that changed color based on who was near them. "Our mission was to study Earth from a distance," Kraxtha explained. "We are scouts for the Galactic Coalition, an alliance of 57 space-traveling species." "And you call Earth a death world?" Peter asked. Another Zelvorian science officer, Vexlara, stepped forward. Her scales shifted to a deep blue color as she spoke. "Your planet has extreme gravity by our standards. Your weather systems are violent. Your oceans cover most of your world with salt water that would kill many species. Your forests and jungles hide countless deadly creatures. Even your bacteria and viruses would be devastating to most coalition races." Alan laughed. "So we're the tough guys of the galaxy?" "You jest, but yes," Kraxtha replied. "Your species evolved in conditions that would kill most intelligent life forms we know. Your bodies can survive damage that would end most beings. Your muscles developed under crushing gravity. Your minds evolved to handle constant threats." Nancy leaned against a wall, which shifted from blue to green at her touch. "So what happens now?" "First contact is a big deal for us humans." Kraxtha's translator struggled to convert his complex answer. "We must report this meeting to the Coalition Council. Normally, we avoid contact with pre-space travel civilizations, but circumstances have changed." "What circumstances?" Alan asked. The alien commander's scales darkened. "War. The Coalition faces an enemy called the Vrecken Horde. They are a hive mind species that consumes all in their path. We have fought them for nearly 100 years, and we are losing." Alan exchanged looks with his team. "And you think we could help?" "Earth barely has unity among our own kind, let alone with aliens." "We have been watching your broadcasts for decades," Vexlara said. "Your species has great potential. And after seeing you fight today, I believe you might be what the Coalition needs." A loud beeping sound filled the room. One of the Zelvorians rushed to a floating screen, touching symbols that rearranged themselves under his four-fingered hands. Commander, Coalition forces have engaged Vrecken scouts in the Proxima system. They request immediate assistance. Kraxtha turned to the humans. We must leave soon. But first, I offer you a choice. Return to your base with no proof of our meeting, or come with us as Earth's first representatives to the stars. Alan thought about his options. Going back meant reports no one would believe, probably followed by psychological evaluations and a desk job. Going with the aliens meant leaving everything behind, but also being the first humans to see what lay beyond their solar system. How long would we be gone? He asked. Time works differently at faster-than-light speeds, Vexlar explained. What might be months for us could be years on Earth. Nancy stepped forward. I'm in, not like I have much waiting for me back home anyway. Peter nodded. Same here, once-in-a-lifetime chance. All eyes turned to Alan. As team leader, his decision carried weight. He thought about his duty, his oath to serve. Maybe this was the ultimate service to humanity, being their first bridge to the stars. We'll need to leave a message for our command, Alan said finally. And we'll need our own quarters on your ship. And decent food, not whatever pills you aliens eat. Kraxtha's scales brightened in what might have been relief. Agreed, we depart in 1 hour. As the humans gathered their gear, Alan looked out. A viewport at the Afghan mountains. Soon they would be just another landscape on a distant world. Ready for this? Nancy asked, joining him. Alan watched as stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Not even close. But when has that ever stopped us? Little did Alan know that this chance meeting would change the path of human history forever. Earth was about to enter a much larger, more dangerous universe, one that would soon learn why Deathworlders were both feared and respected across the galaxy. 6 months passed since Alan Wright and his team left Earth. They now lived on the Zelvorian ship called the Eternal Vigilance. Life in space was strange. The gravity changed based on the time of day. Food came in small pills. The beds felt like floating on water. Still can't get used to these beds, Alan said as he met Sergeant Liz Brown in the training area. Liz had joined them 3 months ago. She was a former Navy SEAL and one of 20 humans now serving with the aliens. Better than sleeping in mud, she replied with a smile. Besides, we have bigger problems. The Xanthari delegates don't think we can fight well enough. The Xanthari were beings made of crystal from a planet with low gravity. They worried about letting humans join coalition military missions. Even though Earth was now a member world, many alien species doubted if humans would be useful in space battles. Commander Kraxtha had become Alan's friend among the aliens. The Zelvorian came to them now, his scales turning deep blue. This meant he was worried. My friends, the Coalition Council has approved a test. You will train alongside our best soldiers. What kind of test? Liz asked. A rescue mission practice. We will see how well you work, how long you last, and how you adapt. What Alan and Liz didn't know was that the test had been set up to make humans fail. Many council members expected them to give up, giving a reason to keep humans out of coalition operations. The training area changed into a fake jungle with hot, wet air and rough ground. Alan and Liz joined a team with 2 Zelvorians, a methane-breathing Vex, and a gravity-sensitive Palladian. The target is 2 miles north, Alan said, looking at the glowing map. Enemies stand between us and the pickup point. The test began. Harder than expected. Automatic defense systems fired painful but non-deadly energy beams. The ground shifted under their feet, and air conditions kept changing. 3 hours into the test, the alien soldiers were getting tired. The Palladian had to stop because of the changing gravity. One Zelvorian struggled with the wet air. They're testing our limits, Liz whispered to Alan as they protected their team. Alan nodded with a serious look. Then let's show them what those limits really are. When they reached their Gola-crashed spacecraft, they found it surrounded by robot drones programmed to fight harder and harder until the team gave up. What happened next became famous among the coalition forces. The humans didn't just survive. They thrived under pressure, changing plans on the spot and pushing through pain that amazed their alien teammates. In the watching room, Admiral Zexkaler of the High Command saw the humans working together to attack. His helper leaned close, mouthparts twitching nervously. "They were supposed to fail," the helper whispered. Admiral Zexkaler's many eyes narrowed. "Maybe we have found the warriors we need for what's coming." The final test came when the jungle scene turned into a burning building, the air filled with smoke that stung their eyes and lungs. The team had to find and rescue 3 injured drones while fighting off enemy robots. The Vex soldier collapsed from heat stress. 1 Zelvorian got trapped under a fallen beam. This left Alan, Liz, and the remaining Zelvorian to finish the mission. "Split up," Alan ordered. "Liz, take the east wing. I'll go west. Kravval, secure our exit route." Liz moved through thick smoke, her Earth-evolved lungs filtering toxins that would kill most aliens. She found 1 drone victim pinned under debris and lifted it with strength that shocked the watching aliens. Humans had evolved on a high-gravity world, giving them natural strength many species lacked. Meanwhile, Alan faced the hardest part of the course. The floor had collapsed, leaving a 15-foot gap he needed to cross. With enemy drones firing from behind, he backed up, ran, and jumped. He barely caught the edge on the other side, dangling over the drop. A drone targeted him, firing an energy pulse that hit his shoulder. The pain was intense, but Alan didn't let go. Instead, he pulled himself up with 1 arm, then threw his knife with perfect aim. Hitting the drone's main sensor, the watchers went silent. No one had ever completed that jump before. In the command center, Kraxtha turned to Admiral Zexkaler. "Now, do you see what I've been saying? Humans don't give up. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. Their bodies can take damage that would end most species. Their minds stay clear when fear would paralyze others." The Admiral watched as Liz carried 2 victims at once, moving faster than the Zelvorians despite the extra weight. Their physical abilities are impressive, but what about their minds? The Vrecken Horde uses fear as a weapon. "Show him," Kraxtha said to a technician. The screen changed to show brain scans of the humans during the test. While their fear responses were active, another part of their brain, the problem-solving center, showed even more activity. "They don't ignore fear," Kraxtha explained. "They use it. When faced with danger, their minds work faster, not slower." The exercise ended with all 3 victims rescued. The human and alien teams stumbled out of the training area, tired but successful. What was meant to be an impossible test had been completed in record time. Admiral Zexkaler approached the humans. His scales had turned gold, the color of respect. "Staff Sergeant Wright, Sergeant Brown, the Coalition has misjudged your species. Your performance today was ... unprecedented." Alan, still catching his breath, stood straight. "With all due respect, Admiral, that wasn't even our best work. We were taking it easy since this was just practice." The Admiral's eyes widened. The watching aliens murmured in surprise. Liz smiled. "If you want to see what humans can really do, put us in a real fight." 2 days later, the Coalition Council voted to create the first human combat unit. They would be called Fireteam Echo, led by Alan Wright with Liz Brown as his second in command. As they received their new Coalition weapons and armor, a message arrived from Earth. The Vrecken Horde had been spotted at the edge of human space. Alan looked at Liz. "Looks like we get to show them our best work after all." The real test was about to begin. Humans would face an enemy that had pushed the Coalition back for a century. The Deathworlders were going to war. The Coalition had fought the Vrecken Horde for almost 100 years. These bug-like aliens lived as one mind and ate everything in their path. Earth joined the Coalition just as the Horde moved into the Arcturus area, too close to human space. Captain Liz Brown now led her own unit called Fireteam Echo. Her team had Hehu Marines trained to fight in zero gravity and vacuum. Colonel Alan Wright worked as the strategy commander on the big Coalition ship named Indomitable Will. "Fireteam Echo, get ready to drop in 5 minutes." Alan's voice said over the radio as Liz checked her team's gear. Next to her, Lance Corporal Frank Martinez and Private First Class Olivia Scott put on their special armor. This armor used alien technology made to work with human bodies. Specialist Kevin Hughes, their communications expert, checked their brain links one last time. "Just another bug hunt," Frank joked. But everyone felt tense. Their mission was very important. Board of Reckon scout ship, steal data, place bombs, then leave. The Coalition had lost 17 teams trying to do similar missions. The drop pod launched with a strong force. As they fell toward the huge Reckon ship, Liz spoke to her team. "Remember your training. Move fast, stay in shadows, and keep radio talk low. These things can sense electrical fields, so keep brain links in passive mode only." The pod hit the outer shell of the Reckon ship. Drills cut through the living material. As air hissed around them, they entered a place that hurt all senses. The air thick with spores and the walls moving with an upsetting rhythm. "I can detect the command center 2 levels down," Kevin reported, his scanner finding the energy signal. The team moved carefully through hallways that seemed to breathe. They met very few enemies, unusual for a Reckon ship. "I don't like this," Olivia said quietly. "Where are all the drones?" They got their answer when they reached the central room. Instead of the data center they expected, they found a massive hatching chamber with thousands of Reckon warriors in different stages of growth. "It's a trap," Liz realized too late as sleeping warriors began to wake up. "Fall back to backup. Exit point." The retreat became a desperate fighting withdrawal. Reckon drones swarmed from every direction, their clicking sounds filling the radio with static. During one fierce fight, Kevin got separated from the group. Liz went back, finding him cornered by 3 warrior-class Reckon. "Go!" he shouted, setting his plasma gun to overload. "I'll hold them." Liz ignored the order, charging into the fight. The explosion as Kevin's gun overloaded collapsed part of the hallway, buying them precious time but covering them with burning Reckon blood. By the time they reached the exit point, all 4 humans were hurt but still moving. The waiting Coalition shuttle pilot, a Zelvorian veteran, couldn't hide his surprise. "How are you still working?" he asked as they stumbled aboard. Frank managed a painful smile despite the deep cut across his chest. "Because the mission isn't over yet." As the shuttle left the Reckon ship, Admiral Zexkaler received their message containing critical information. The Reckon weren't just scouting, they were building a staging ground for a massive attack force. The humans had succeeded where 17 other teams had failed, building their reputation among Coalition forces as the toughest warriors in the galaxy. Back on the indomitable Will, the medical team rushed to treat the injured humans. The alien doctors were amazed at how the humans kept functioning despite injuries that would kill most species. "Your blood clotting system is remarkable," the head doctor told Frank as they sealed his chest wound. "Any of our species would have bled out from such a cut." Frank shrugged, then winced at the pain. "Just built tough, I guess." In the command center, Alan studied the data his team had recovered. The images showed hundreds of Reckon ships gathering near the edge of Coalition space. "This isn't just a raid," he told Admiral Zexkaler. "They're planning a full invasion." The Admiral's scales darkened to a deep purple, the color of deep concern. "We don't have enough ships to stop a fleet this size." "Then we don't stop the fleet," Alan said. "We take out their queens." The plan Alan proposed was bold. While the Coalition fleet engaged the Reckon ships, a small strike force would target the 3 queen ships they had identified. Without the queens to direct them, the Reckon forces would fall into confusion. "This is our best chance," Alan explained to the War Council. "The Reckon are one mine cut off the head and the body falls." Liz's team, despite their injuries, volunteered to lead the strike. "No one else has ever come back from a Reckon ship," Liz argued when Alan hesitated. "We know what to expect now." After much debate, the plan was approved. Fireteam Echo would get 3 days to recover, then lead a strike force of 6 teams, 3 human and 3 alien, in a coordinated attack on the queen ships. As the medical bay, Frank tested his healed chest with careful movements. The Coalition's advanced medicine had sealed his wound in hours rather than days. Ready for round 2 with the bugs? Olivia asked him, her arm in a healing sleeve to fix a broken bone. Frank nodded. They caught us by surprise last time. Won't happen again? Kevin, recovering from burns on his back, looked up from his datapad. I've been studying their ship layouts. Found some patterns we can use? The team spent their recovery time planning, studying Vrecken behavior patterns and ship designs. They trained other teams on what to expect, sharing the hard lessons they had learned. On the 3rd day, they gathered in the launch bay with the other strike teams. 6 dropships waited, each holding a team of specialists. Admiral Zex Kaler addressed them before launch. What you attempt has never been done. No strike team has ever reached a Vrecken Queen, let alone 3. If you succeed, you may end a war that has raged for a century. Liz checked her weapon one last time. No pressure, right? The Admiral's scales shifted to gold respect. The Coalition owes a great debt to Earth already. Your species has shown courage beyond our understanding. Alan joined them for the final briefing. The fleet will engage in 30 minutes, drawing their defenders away. You'll have a small window to reach the Queens. Communications will be limited once you're inside their ships. The strike teams boarded their dropships. As the bay doors opened to the blackness of space, Frank looked at his teammates. See you all on the other side, he said. The dropships launched into space, racing toward the massive Vrecken fleet. Ahead lay the biggest battle of the war and humanity's chance to prove their true worth to the galaxy. The data that Fireteam Echo found proved very valuable. The Coalition sent most of their ships to attack the Vrecken staging area in the Proxima system. Major General Alan right now led all of the Coalition's Special Forces teams. Captain Liz Brown's Echo team had grown to include experts from 3 different alien species along with her human Marines. The battle started well. Coalition ships took control of the space around Proxima 4 Bare Moon that the Vrecken had turned into a fortress. Ground teams landed to destroy key hive points while the fleet fought Vrecken ships in space. Alan stood on the command deck of the Indomitable Will, watching battle screens as Liz's team approached their main target, the Queen's Chamber deep inside the moon. Echo team, be careful. We're seeing strange energy readings from your target, Alan warned. Move with caution, Liz acknowledged as she led her team through tunnels cut into the moon's rock. With her were Private Olivia Scott and Corporal Frank Martinez, along with Graxville, a Zelvorian bomb expert, and Clara, a Palladian scout. The Vrecken were ready for them. As Eco Team entered the final chamber, they found not 1 queen, but 3, something never seen before in Coalition records. Change of plans, Liz told the fleet. We need to kill all 3 targets at the same time or risk the others escaping. What followed was chaos. The chamber filled with fighting as hundreds of Guardian drones came down to protect their queens. Echo Team split into 3 groups, each targeting a different queen. Liz and Frank found themselves trapped, cut off from the others by a wall of bug-like bodies. A Vrecken warrior broke through their defensive fire, its sharp limb cutting through Frank's left arm just below the shoulder. The arm fell away cleanly, burned at the edge by the hot Vrecken weapon. In the helmet camera footage later watched by Coalition Command, what happened next would forever change how alien species viewed humans. Frank screamed, not in surrender but in anger. He jammed a blood-stopping injector into his shoulder wound, and, using his remaining arm, fired his pistol into the Vrecken warrior's face. Then, taking a bomb from his belt, he charged directly into the swarm, protecting the nearest queen. Frank, come back, Liz ordered. No, Captain, he replied through clenched teeth. Can't set off the bomb remotely with all this interference. Someone has to place it by hand. Liz watched in horror as Frank disappeared into the mass of Vrecken, bodies fighting his way toward the queen. Moments later, a huge explosion shook the chamber, collapsing one section and killing the first queen, inspired by Frank's sacrifice. The remaining team members pushed their attack with new fury. Clara, the Palladian scout, used her species' natural gravity powers to create a path for Olivia to reach the second queen. Graxville covered their advance, his 4 arms using weapons with deadly accuracy. The battle continued for another 20 Minutes before Liz's voice came over the radio. Command, mission complete. 2 queens confirmed dead, 3rd badly wounded, requesting immediate pickup. As the dust settled, medics found Frank Martinez impossibly still alive. He had been thrown clear by his own explosion and lay half-buried in rubble. Still holding his weapon and trying to drag himself back toward the fight, the Zelvorian medic who found him called for emergency transport, his normally calm voice breaking with emotion. Command, we need immediate medical evacuation. Human soldiers still fighting despite losing an arm. I've never seen anything like this. When the medical team arrived, they found Frank conscious but in shock from blood loss. Still, he tried to stand when they approached. The queens? He asked, his voice weak. Dead, the medic assured him. Your team succeeded. Frank nodded and finally allowed himself to be placed on a stretcher. Even then, he refused to let go of his weapon until Liz gently took it from him. Mission accomplished, Corporal, she said. Stand down now. On the command ship, Alan watched the medical feed with Admiral Zex Kaler. The alien commander's scales had turned a mix of gold and blue respect and amazement. How is he still alive? The Admiral asked. He lost a limb and set off an explosion at point-blank range. Alan shook his head. Human physiology. Our bodies enter a survival state under extreme stress. Blood vessels contract to reduce bleeding, pain is suppressed, and adrenaline provides emergency energy, but to continue fighting after such an injury, that's not physiology, Alan said quietly. That's just Frank. The footage of Frank continuing to fight after losing his arm spread quickly throughout Coalition forces. Alien soldiers watched in awe as the human Marine, missing a limb and covered in his own blood, fought his way through Vrekin drones to complete his mission. In medical bay, Frank drifted in and out of consciousness as doctors worked to stabilize him. Coalition medical technology was advanced, but human physiology presented unique challenges. His systems are crashing, the head doctor reported. We need to get him to the central medical station. The indomitable will changed course, pushing its engines to reach the medical station in the shortest possible time. As they traveled, Liz stayed by Frank's side, talking to him even when he couldn't respond. You know, this wasn't in the job description, she told him. Making history as the toughest species in the galaxy. Frank's vital signs stabilized slightly. The doctor looked at Liz in surprise. Keep talking, he urged. He seems to be responding. Liz is continued, telling stories of Earth, reminding Frank of their training days. Anything to keep him connected to life. In the command center, Alan briefed the Coalition War Council on the mission's success. The death of 3 queens had thrown the Vrekin forces into disarray. For the first time in the century-long war, the Horde was retreating. The sacrifice of Corporal Martinez may have turned the tide of this war, Alan concluded. A Xandari counselor, one of the crystal beings who had doubted human usefulness, raised a glowing appendage. You speak of sacrifice, yet reports say this human still lives. How is this possible? Alan smiled. Humans are full of surprises, counselor. 3 days later, Frank woke in the medical station. His left arm was gone, but Coalition doctors had already prepared plans for an advanced replacement that would integrate with his nervous system. Admiral Zex Kaler personally visited Frank's room. The Admiral placed a medallion on Frank's chest, the Coalition's highest honor for courage. Your actions have changed the way the Coalition sees humanity, the Admiral said formally. Your species' ability to endure what others cannot, it gives us hope for victory. Frank, weak but conscious, managed a small smile. Just doing my job, sir. When can I get back to my unit? The Admiral's compound eyes blinked in surprise. This, perhaps more than anything, showed what made humans unique among the stars. As news of the victory at Proxima Ridge spread, more human volunteers came forward to join Coalition forces. The tide of war had begun to turn, all because one human soldier refused to stop fighting, even after losing a limb. 1 year after the Battle of Proxima Ridge, the war against the Vrekin Horde had reached a turning point. Lieutenant Colonel Liz Brown stood before the Galactic Coalition Council. She was the first human to speak to all 57 alien civilizations. Together, in the audience sat General Alan Wright, now Earth's military leader in the coalition. Next to him was Sergeant Major Frank Martinez. Frank's missing arm had been replaced with advanced coalition technology. His new arm responded to his thoughts better than his old arm had. "Distinguished representatives," Liz began, her voice steady. "1 year ago, coalition forces faced what seemed like an impossible threat. Today I bring news from the front. The Vrecken horde is running away for the first time in 100 years of war." Sounds of surprise moved through the room as glowing displays showed the battle situation. Vrecken forces had been pushed back across 3 sectors. Their hive ships were scattered and their queens were hiding. "We didn't win because we had better technology or more ships," Liz continued. "We won because of something the Vrecken cannot understand, different ways of thinking and fighting." She pointed to the mixed species military group seated nearby. "Humans did not win these battles alone. We won because Zelvorian battle planning worked with Palladian gravity powers, because Vex breathing abilities supported human endurance, because we learned from each other and became stronger together." The council chamber grew quiet as Liz made her main point. The Vrecken fought as they always do, one mind with one purpose. They cannot adapt to the unexpected because they cannot think in different ways. Our biggest advantage is not our weapons but our differences. Admiral Zexkaler rose to join her at the speaking platform, his scales turning to the ceremonial gold of deep respect. "What Lieutenant Colonel Brown describes has been named the Deathworld Doctrine by Coalition Command," he announced. "A new battle approach that uses the unique evolution advantages of each member species." The new doctrine had been developed after careful study of Frank Martinez and other human soldiers. Their ability to keep fighting despite severe injury, extreme stress, and overwhelming odds had shown something crucial about species evolution. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme weather changes and countless predators, the Admiral explained. What we first called a death world produced warriors uniquely suited to survive the unthinkable. But each coalition species brings equally valuable evolution advantages. Specialist Kevin Hughes, now leading the coalition's cross-species training program, had described it more simply during development. "Humans don't know when to quit. Zelvorians never miss a detail. Palladians can control gravity. Together we can't be beaten." The council voted unanimously to use the Deathworld Doctrine across all coalition forces. For the first time, integration was not just political but key to military strategy. After the meeting, Frank found himself surrounded by alien officials eager to hear his view on the famous battle. One young Zelvorian cadet approached carefully. "Sergeant, Major, is it true you kept fighting with only one arm because humans don't feel pain?" Frank laughed, moving his new biomechanical arm. "No, we definitely feel pain, probably more strongly than most species." "Then why continue?" the cadet asked, mouth parts clicking in confusion. Frank thought about this for a moment, his face growing serious. "Because giving up wasn't an option. Not when my team was still in danger." Alan joined them, patting Frank on the shoulder. "That's what the coalition needed to understand about us. Humans don't fight because we're fearless or can't feel pain. We fight despite our fear and pain because what we're fighting for matters more." As they looked out the window at the bright expanse of coalition space, Liz completed the thought. "And now we've taught the galaxy that lesson." Back on Earth, cities celebrated as the first Vrecken prisoners arrived. These captured drones, separated from their queens, were being studied to find weaknesses in the horde. Scientists from 12 different species worked together, each bringing unique perspectives to the research. Frank visited Earth for the first time since leaving with Alan. Years before, he stood in New York's Central Park watching children play. Some wore toy versions of his biomechanical arm. He had become a hero to human children. "How does it feel to be famous?" Liz asked, joining him on a park bench. Frank shrugged. "Strange. I was just doing my job." "You're just doing your job changed galactic history," she reminded him. "The coalition was losing the war until humans joined." A small boy approached them, eyes wide with recognition. "Are you really Sergeant Martinez, the one who fought with one arm?" Frank smiled, kneeling to the child's level. I am, but I had a lot of help from my team. The boy touched Frank's mechanical arm with wonder. Does it hurt? Not anymore, Frank said gently. And the coalition doctors made it even better than my old arm. As the child ran back to his parents, Liz noticed Frank's thoughtful expression. What's on your mind? She asked. Just thinking about how far we've come, he replied. A few years ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now we're teaching combat techniques to beings from across the galaxy. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Alan. Frank answered on his arm's built-in communicator. Martinez here. Frank, Liz, we've got a situation, Alan's voice came through clearly. Coalition long-range scouts have detected something beyond the edge of charted space. Something big. Vrecken? Liz asked. No, Alan replied, his voice grave. Something else. Something even the Vrecken fear. The Council has requested Earth's best for a first contact mission. Frank and Liz exchanged looks. Their experience with the Vrecken had prepared them for this moment. When do we leave? Frank asked without hesitation. Tomorrow. The indomitable will has been refitted for deep space exploration. I'll send the details to your communicators. As they walked through Central Park toward the spaceport, Liz looked up at the afternoon sky. Somewhere beyond those blue skies lay a new challenge. Ready for this? She asked. Frank flexed his mechanical arm, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Not even close. But when has that ever stopped us? In the years that followed, the Deathworld doctrine transformed coalition forces into an adaptive, integrated fighting force unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The Vrecken horde, unable to understand or counter such diversity of approach, gradually retreated to the edges of known space. And throughout coalition territory, the image of a one-armed human marine continuing to fight became a symbol of determination. Against impossible odds, a reminder that sometimes the most valuable evolution trait is simply refusing to give up.